Okay, let's decode one of the most universal human experiences, right? This secret crush. But forget all the big, loud, movie-style grand gestures. We're going to be looking for something else entirely. The quiet signals, that hidden language people use when they're trying really, really hard to keep their feelings a secret.
And here's the really weird thing about them. At the heart of every secret crush, there's this paradox, something that just doesn't seem to add up at first glance.
You'd think a secret crush would be, a secret. But here's the twist. They're actually not hidden very well at all. In fact, they can be surprisingly obvious, but only if you know what you're looking for.
And that, right there, is the key. The feelings don't just vanish. Nope, they just get rerouted. They come out in these little whispers instead of big shouts. And that's what this is all about, learning how to actually hear those whispers.
This really gets to the core of it. I mean, think about it. You can control what you say, sure, but trying to control your own instincts, your gut reactions, that's so much harder. The body doesn't really lie, and those emotions, they will find a way out through your posture, where your attention goes, and all these tiny unconscious reactions.
So, let's start digging in. I want you to think of yourself as a detective for the next few minutes. You're looking for clues that are literally right there in front of you. They're just disguised as perfectly normal, everyday behavior.
All right, so where do we even begin this investigation? What are those first foundational signals that make up this quiet language? Let's break down the very first category.
This first one is all about where a person chooses to put their body, and just as important, their focus. It's probably the most fundamental signal because it all comes down to two things that are incredibly hard to fake over time: proximity and investment.
So, the first thing to look for is what we can call the accidental orbit. Now, this isn't about them following you around. It's way more subtle. It's like they're engineering their own path just so it happens to intersect with yours again and again and again.
All of a sudden, they're in the same project group, or they start showing up at the coffee shop at the exact same time you do every morning. And each time, there's a totally plausible excuse, right? But it's the pattern that tells the real story. Remember, one time is just a coincidence, but 3 times, well, that's data.
Okay, now for something even more subtle than the orbit. This isn't about physical presence, it's about their mental presence. It's about what they notice, even when they're pretending not to be noticing anything at all. And really, it just comes down to the level of detail. I mean, anybody can remember you got a promotion. That's easy. But this person? They remember that you mentioned offhand last week that you were nervous about the presentation. They notice that tiny shift in your mood before you've even said a word about it. That is the attention leak.
Okay, let's shift gears from just observation to actual interaction. Because when you're talking to them, the clues aren't just in the words they say, but in the spaces between the words.
This is such a huge tell. See, most people, they listen just so they can respond. But someone with a hidden crush, they listen to actually understand you. And that creates this very specific, almost invisible delay before they answer.
We're talking about just half a second. It's not some awkward silence. It's a buffer. It's the sound of them actually processing what you said and then choosing their words carefully because suddenly your opinion of them carries a whole lot more weight. It's a pause of pure consideration. All right, here's where you can almost see the matrix start to crack a little. You can introduce a variable that their carefully built system just isn't ready for. Just casually bring up a potential rival. Could be a date, another friend, anyone. And you'll see it. For just a split second, the mask slips. Now, they're not going to say anything, but you'll see it in their face. The smile suddenly doesn't quite reach their eyes anymore. Their posture might close off, just a little. It's a micro-reaction, a momentary system failure as their real emotions try to push through. That is the glitch. So let's move on to the final category of behavior. This one is less about those tiny little tells and much more about a consistent, overarching pattern of action. This is what really sets them apart from everybody else. See, this isn't about cheesy pickup lines or loud compliments. It's all about substance. They are your quiet cheerleader, the one who sends you a message after a really tough meeting, the one who somehow remembers your dog's birthday, the one who champions your ideas when no one else is around. It's a deep pattern of investment, with zero expectation of getting anything back. Now, a good friend might do some of these things some of the time, for sure. But this consistent, quiet, almost selfless support, that's something more. It's a deep level of care that's just disguised as simple friendship, mostly to avoid being exposed. Okay, so we've looked at the orbit, the attention leaks, the glitches, the support patterns. We've gathered all this quiet evidence.
So now what? How do we put all these pieces together and actually reach a verdict?
After observing all of these subtle signals, what's the one filter you should use to interpret everything? What's the final key to solving this whole mystery?
Well, here's what it all really boils down to. Stop waiting for some big, obvious confession. Instead, look for the quiet consistency of their presence and that constant pattern of support. But honestly, most importantly, look for the effort. The constant, subtle effort they put into hiding feelings that are just too strong to be contained. That effort itself is the biggest clue of all.
And that, right there, is the beautiful, simple truth of it all. The feelings are there. They're definitely real. They've just been translated into a totally different language, a quiet, consistent language of whispers. And if you just listen closely enough, it tells you everything you need to know.